let's do this then. Let's just get this out of the way.
Why would I bother watching this video? I already know you're a simple Raimi dick writer and an MCU hater. Dumbass bitch.
While you absolutely may be right about the former, I love the Raimi films, even 3 for God's sake. I maintain that Spider-Man 1 and 2 are some of the best films ever made. Masterfully combining narratives, the characters, their arcs, their performances, and most importantly, heart. Now, I could easily make like 300 videos about why the Raimi films are so god tier, but instead, I'm going to recommend you High Top Films' channel, where right now he has a series ongoing about the Raimi films in their entirety, and he's just covered the first one, and it might be his best video yet. Seriously, go subscribe to that dude, and he's actually an inspiration for why I'm making this video right now. P.S. I'll always defend this scene for being one of the top 5 comic book scenes of all time. Come on, fight me, do it.
Come on, move, kid.
However, an MCU hater, I am not. In fact, Endgame is my current favorite film of the year, and I love the MCU, you know, the complete and utter dedication that these people have shown to interconnecting this universe and building something completely unprecedented in the realm of film is incredible, you know, it just is. And like many a fan, the release of Captain America Civil War saw the introduction of course, everyone's favorite Marvel hero. I mean, even if he is not, he is. Spider-Man! Spider-Man was finally into the MCU after that shit that Sony tried to do with him. Like, it was bad. We don't need to talk. Regardless of all this, Homecoming was released in 2017 as Spider-Man's first Marvel Cinematic Universe outing. And what did I think about it? I fucking loved it.
Yes, that is all I've wanted to hear.
At the time, I loved it.
Shit.
You see, like many things, opinions can change, and my opinion of Homecoming definitely has. I would love to point out that Homecoming, by no stretch of any imagination, is a bad film. It's funny, has great characters, has some really great scenes. The If This Be My Destiny scene is possibly one of my favorite live-action Spider-Man scenes ever, except for that one part where they play Tony Stark's voice line. Like, do you not have any... Can you give some credit to your audience, please, and just allow us to interpret... That's just a nitpick, yeah, whatever. But upon looking at the film as a piece of Spider-Man media, I began to see holes. Holes that I really didn't want to admit, because, damn it, Spider-Man was in the MCU, and I was ecstatic. But I just could not ignore the fundamental things that make Spider-Man Spider-Man being absent from Homecoming. Again, if I may, go check out High Top Films' channel. He's got a video on Spider-Man Homecoming is a bad Spider-Man film, and it just completely encapsulates everything I could ever hope to put into words, but except he's much better at it, and he's got a much sexier voice as well, so, yeah. Anyway, the point of all this rambling is to tell you people that I saw Far From Home, and it completely floored me. And not in the sense I was hoping. Spider-Man Far From Home is by far the most aggravating Spider-Man film I've ever laid eyes upon. And I don't say that lightly. I sat through Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, okay, it's not as bad as Amazing Spider-Man 2. But in terms of fundamental misunderstanding of the Spider-Man character, it just completely shattered me. And I'm gutted to say it because they have so many elements in this film that could work, that should work, but just don't. Tom Holland, I think, has the ability to be the best interpretation of Spider-Man ever. And I'm including Spectacular. I don't say that shit lightly, y'all. Like, really, Tom Holland is so talented, and they just give him nothing. Now, of course, I'm going to go piece by piece into this movie and explain these thoughts, but this is more of my general rambling. I just thought Far From Home was severely disappointing, and my first thought coming out of it was just the word lame. And that's not what you want, really. You don't want your audience walking out of it and saying the film was lame. That being said, I do think this film is going to be loved by many, and it does seem to be getting loved by many. I mean, I know the Twitterverse is a complete shitstorm with Spider-Man opinions, and you say the wrong thing, you're going to get sniped by someone who has Tom Holland as that AVI picture. And, you know, this is all I'll say. Just let people love what they want, let people hate what they want. You know, just don't be dicks, guys. I mean, I dislike Far From Home. You can love it, that's completely fine. Like, that should just be the end of the discussion, you know. But that being said, I am going to go into why this film fails as a Spider-Man experience.
Oh my fucking god. This dude just spent 5 minutes talking about absolutely nothing, and now he's getting to the actual scripted part of this video, and the one that pertains to Far From Home. I just cannot believe you have wasted my time like this. I swear to God I will murder your family and steal your...
One of the few things that, in my humble opinion, Homecoming seemed to pretty much nail was the antagonist. This antagonist was in the form of the Vulture, a character never seen in a live-action adaptation before. Possibly for good reason. There are numerous factors that contribute to why the Vulture ended up enhancing Homecoming as an experience. Besides the fact that Michael Keaton is a goddamn national treasure and great in almost anything he's involved in, the modernization and literalization of the term Vulture and his mechanized suit were very much appreciated on my end. Seriously, I thought it was neat. But none of this shit matters if one thing were to stumble. One thing that is absolutely monumental when crafting an effective villain is the motivation of that said villain. Tom's motivation in this film is clear from the introduction of the film. He believes that the world is being tarnished by the likes of Tony Stark, and men like Stark are effectively cutting down the lives of
guys like us.
This is good for this film, as the guys like us angle is a huge part of why Spider-Man is appealing. The fact that he is not a rich boy with fast cars and high-tech gizmos to get him through any situation. More on this later. Vulture's story and inclusion into the MCU at large was pretty well crafted and made logical sense. Not only that, but they personalized him to Peter when it was revealed that Toomes is Liz's father. A fact that for sure slapped me in the face upon first viewing. See, I'm a sucker for personalized stories, and I will always prefer that when the villain of a narrative has personal quarrels with the hero, as there is more of an emotional stake at the root of it. With Homecoming, you got the tie-in to the larger MCU in addition to how the hell Peter fits into the equation. Now what the hell does any of this have to do with Mysterio? Well, dear viewer, for what I've just described, Mysterio fucking blows. As stated before, there are so many elements that should absolutely lead to an outstanding Spider-Man product, Jake Gyllenhaal being one of them. As most of you probably know, Gyllenhaal is an amazing actor, and pretty much the most snug fit for a character like Quentin Beck. However, the film does nothing with him, or rather, nothing interesting with him. It's a very similar case to how they tied Toomes into the larger MCU in Homecoming, but in this film, in Far From Home, they do it in such a lazy and contrived way. You see, apparently, Beck designed the bath tech that Tony showed off in Civil War, and Beck is apparently just another disgruntled Stark employee. A disgruntled Stark employee that recruits many other disgruntled Stark employees, including that one guy that Obadiah Stane yelled at in the first Iron Man, which admittedly is pretty neat. While I didn't have a problem with this in Homecoming, when it's the second film in a Spider-Man franchise, I expect a little bit of innovation. But maybe that's me setting my expectations too high. Not to mention, and this is completely personal preference, the concept of going with drones. Robotic drones that actually construct Mysterio's illusions is easily the least visually compelling way they could have taken the character, in my humble opinion. By the time the third act rolled around, I was just not visually engaged at all, and I sort of switched off. The idea of drones, just robots, just really personally bores me, and it's a shame because I think Mysterio is such an iconic character for the way artists use him visually that I think this film sort of misses the mark. I just can't help but feel like I've seen this film before. Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Homecoming. I don't understand why everything needs to be tied back into Tony Stark. I understand we love Tony Stark, but let the man rest. There was a reason Endgame is the second highest grossing film at the box office, because it delivered an emotional conclusion and the end chapter for that saga of the MCU. I just don't understand why we need to tie everything back into Tony. Just let the villains have something to do with Peter. And that brings me to why Mysterio mainly fails for me. He has no quarrel with Peter at all. In fact, he doesn't even really want to kill him. I mean, I understand that he's a kid and Spider-Man's just more of an annoyance to his greater plan, which is fair enough, but it just leaves the betrayal at the centerpiece of the film a whole lot less emotionally gripping, because Peter has known this guy for about 2 hours and decides to give him the Edith glasses, which is the very last thing that Tony left him in his dying will, which is idiotic in of itself, but I'm not going to get into that. As I said, I am a sucker for personalized stories, especially personalized Spider-Man stories, as Peter always has a pin in the villains that he faces, whether it's Peter's life and Spider-Man's life colliding, or just something he knows he has to do due to his responsibility, which, by the way, is barely even a plot point in these modern MCU Spider-Man films, which is just blasphemy.
But Cage, the illusion scenes were fucking epic and I wet my pants at the sheer sight of the visuals. And Peter is subjected to seeing Iron Man's disheveled skeleton rolling around. Does this not tie into Peter's responsibility? That Peter could have saved him?
I'm actually glad you brought that up. While I will concur that the Mysterio illusion scenes were visually stunning and some of the best the live-action Spidey films have offered to date, there's something that really bugs me about one portion of it. When Peter does see Iron Man's disheveled skeleton, as you brought up, Mysterio says something along the lines of, if you did something, he would still be alive. If you saved him, he would obviously not be dead. And that is just a whole nother issue within this film. Peter had absolutely zero to do with Tony's death. You're meaning to tell me that Peter could have stopped Thanos from wiping out half of the universe on his own, therefore preventing Tony Stark from sacrificing himself? Sorry, that's bullshit. It just feels very cheap. Like the filmmakers are trying to appeal to the fans by saying, look, we're tying in the responsibility somehow. Well, that's all fine and good, but why the hell don't you just mention his name? Just mention Uncle fucking Ben. Uncle Ben is the single most important character in Spider-Man mythology. I said it and I stand by it. Spider-Man's entire philosophy of with great power comes great responsibility, which I'm sure many people have heard to death, comes directly as a result of Ben's demise. Peter could have easily have stopped the eventual killer, but chose not to. And for that action, or rather inaction, Ben is killed as a direct result of Peter choosing to do nothing when he has the responsibility with these abilities to help people in need. I feel like this doesn't need to be explained, as it is Spider-Man 101. With this said, I am open to interpretations of the character that do not fully utilize Uncle Ben as the MCU does. However, the MCU handles it poorly. There has been no mention of Ben, as far as I know, apart from maybe a small little hint of what May has been through in Homecoming. And besides that, the little suitcase in Far From Home, which, by the way, gets blown up in this movie and is not given a second thought, which is absolutely just unreal. I cannot believe that slipped through the writer's room. Come on, guys. It is clear that the MCU, and by extension John Watts, is making Tony Stark the parental figure that acts as Peter's Uncle Ben. And that would be fine in concept. However, as stated previously with the Mysterio illusion, they paint Tony's death as an Uncle Ben moment where Peter could have easily have prevented it given the use of his powers, his responsibility to prevent people from dying. But that's just not the case. I just think responsibility is completely and utterly at the core of Peter Parker. He's a guy who completely gets shat on most of the time. Life does him extremely dirty. He is a kid who's just trying to move his way through life while also living as Spider-Man with the ability to help others in need who may be in his same position or maybe even not. But he has a responsibility. Again, the word responsibility is repetitive, but it has to be there. Otherwise, it's just not Spider-Man. Final point on Uncle Ben, because I feel like it's been done to death. You just need to have some mention of him. Have some grief. It can be as simple as one sentence. one conversation between Peter and May, acknowledging what Uncle Ben did for them, what values he taught Peter, everything like that, because I simply do not get a feel for it within the MCU. But I realize it's probably for naught at this point, so why not just examine the current father figure we have within the MCU for Peter, Tony Stark, and why that completely cheapens the Spider-Man character. Yay, I just love shitting on MCU Spider-Man, it's so fun. I surely can't be alone in saying that Peter's reliance on Tony Stark, and by extension his tech within all his suits and gadgets, completely takes away an element of why I love the character so dearly. Issues such as the financial situation do not need to be addressed in every Spider-Man story. I think that's fair to say. But to say I'm completely unbothered by Peter's reliance on Tony, and by extension his funding and tech, would be a straight up lie. Having Peter's character focus on these things sort of strips a characteristic of Peter that I've always gravitated towards. The fact that he can do so much with very little. High Top Alex brings about a very interesting comparison with his Homecoming video between Peter Parker and Terry McGinnis of Batman Beyond fame, where they both have very rich mentors and by extension inherit their tech and their mantle. With Far From Home, it was the expectation that Peter's arc would be separating Spider-Man from Iron Man, coming into his own and escaping the shadow that Tony Stark left after his death. And that sounds like a really good, really compelling narrative to follow, and a good Spider-Man narrative to follow, as Spider-Verse tackled a similar thing with Miles Morales just being his own Spider-Man. All of this sounds great in theory, however the film, in my opinion, completely fails to uphold this narrative pin, because it just completely goes against its own themes. One of the scenes that I quite liked was the portion of the film where Peter and Happy have a heart-to-heart talking about the legacy that Tony left, and how no one can possibly live up to what Tony left in his wake. And I thought, right, well, this is the moment in the film where Peter realizes he needs to be Spider-Man and not Iron Man Jr. This is great. This is fantastic. I can't wait. We're going to get Spider-Man in the MCU as I know him and as I love him, in his own element, not living up to Iron Man. But then a creative choice so baffling is made that I can't even really fathom it. He goes to design his own suit because he knows he needs to stop Beck. And as he's designing his own suit, Happy looks at him with a clear expression of, that's how Tony used to do it. He reminds me so much of Tony. And then, for some odd reason that I still cannot process, they play AC/DC's Back in Black to accompany this epic moment where Spider-Man is designing his suit. Which, am I crazy for thinking that completely undoes any narrative theme they were going for? I thought the point was for him not to live up to Tony, and now he's doing the exact same thing that Tony would do. What the actual fuck? I don't get it. What? You remember the climax of Spider-Man 2, where Tobey Maguire is holding debris from falling on Mary Jane? And they have a really nice moment between them where Mary Jane finally clicks into place, realizing that, it makes a total load of sense that Peter Parker would be Spider-Man considering everything, and it's a sweet moment in a really deadly situation, and it was one of my favorite moments of the film. Do you remember that? If you can, good. Hold on to that memory, because that's all you're going to be able to do, because it's clear that the current films just have a complete and utter disregard for any secret identity story whatsoever. Can I just start off by mentioning that the fact that Aunt May is the supportive mother in this situation where Peter got disintegrated in space and she continually supports him in going to risk his life every day by literally packing his fucking suit into his suitcase and saying, hey, you nearly forgot this, go save the world, is the most ridiculous thing I've ever witnessed on screen. Why? That doesn't make sense. Why is Aunt May being supportive? You've removed a complete amazing layer of drama that can come from a Spider-Man story. Why? Why have her be supportive? It makes no sense. As a maternal figure, you wouldn't want your son essentially going out risking his life every day, because he died. He literally died. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand it. not only does Aunt May know and is supportive, but the people closest to Peter, like his best friend Ned from the last film, he found out, which is fine. I mean, like, you need, I guess, that one confidant where you can have the guy in the chair, as it's stated. But then MJ in this movie finds out by process of elimination or deduction or some shit that she's like, oh yeah, it was kind of obvious, which I guess in realism terms is fair enough. But in crafting a story where drama takes center stage and you want to create conflict for these characters in situations where it's actually interesting for the audience, like, oh, will she find out, will she not, and then just have it as a throwaway joke, is just sort of a waste. Not to mention the post-credit scene undoes all of that anyway by revealing to the world that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, because Quentin Beck had a contingency plan where he would reveal his identity to the rest of the world. One thing real quick, why would anyone take the word over Quentin Beck, who's a dude who anyone barely knows, who fought like a few elementals, over the Spider-Man who has been around for much longer and actually helped in the fight against Thanos? Why would anyone believe him? No one's gonna believe that Peter Parker's Spider-Man. I mean, I just don't know. And even if they were to go ahead on the future sequels and follow up on this story, which I doubt they will, I think, much like the blip in this movie, it will be a joke in the next film where everyone brings it up and then shrugs it off as like a no big deal sort of situation. Even if they were to take it to the narrative heights that it deserves, it's completely unearned at this point. Spectacular did a similar thing where everyone found out he was Peter due to Venom, I think, and you actually believed that there were stakes there because the show built up its world around Peter not revealing his identity to even Aunt May, and that was really good. And you're like, oh shit, okay, his secret's actually out. But in this film, he had no problem with letting people know anyway, so there's no tension. And I don't have enough faith in this Marvel Cinematic Universe to even follow through on an emotional payoff, just of virtue of the way they treated the dusting in this movie. Like, the first scene, this is off topic from the Secret Identity, the first scene is just a joke memorial for the heroes that died in Endgame, which is a complete slap in the face. And like, the first time you address the snap, like the biggest world-ending thing ever in this universe, and it's played off as a joke. I just think, I understand you need a palate cleanser, but like, oh my god, this movie's non-stop jokes, and they're funny jokes, but they were just unneeded. You lost a lot of drama due to wanting to make light of everything because you needed a palate cleanser after Endgame. And I just think that's lazy. Beside the point of the Secret Identity thing, I just don't think it was necessarily earned, and on top of that, I don't think they're going to follow through with it in a sequel anyway. J.K. Simmons appearing as J. Jonah Jameson was pretty cool though. If you love the MCU Spider-Man, I am eternally happy for you. Spider-Man is so many things to so many different people that there's an interpretation for pretty much everyone out there. And, you know, you're always going to have ones that you connect to more, that you resonate more with, and that's just the nature of comics, really. You're going to have so many different interpretations, so many different takes on certain ideas and concepts that you're never going to have one perfect Spider-Man that appeals to everyone. And MCU Spider-Man simply doesn't appeal to me. And that's a shame, but I'm so happy for the people who can watch Tom Holland's movies and be like, that is my Spider-Man. I love that experience for some people. It's just, me personally, I have so many issues with the way they're handling the character that I simply just cannot get as invested as some of you can. And again, I'd like to reiterate, I'm very happy for you guys, but then again, please don't attack people for not liking MCU Spider-Man, and people on my end don't attack people for liking MCU Spider-Man. It goes both ways, guys. You know, you just got to be respectful. Spider-Man should bring us together, not tear us apart. And with that, people, concludes my general thoughts on Far From Home. Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far. I could have spoken about a lot more separate problems I had with the film, but these were easily the biggest grievances I had with the execution of this movie, and why it was just pretty aggravating for me. And you know, I'm still gonna watch the future films, but I'm not as invested in this Spider-Man as I would hope to be, and I just think they're completely tarnishing what I love about the character. Now, what you may love about the character might be different, and this film completely accentuates that, and again, I'm happy for you, but for me, this film just missed the mark. for who Spider-Man is to me. And yeah, so that's essentially my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it if you made it this far. I'm really hoping in the future I can adopt more of a video essay style as opposed to the sort of free-form style that this one took. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I would just really love to start writing scripts because I actually have a passion for writing things, you know, even writing stories and stuff like that. So I'd really love to write a few scripts that I can use in videos to sort of more articulate my points more effectively. And again, people like High Top Films, Brown Table, Loverboy Media, seriously go check all of them out. Like, they are such inspirations for me, and I really want to try and come into my own as a content creator and sort of hopefully someday be half as good as them. This was sort of an experiment. I've never really talked about a film this in depth before, and as I said, I would like to get a lot more articulate as I go on, so I think this is a bit of a learning process. But yeah, so that just about wraps it up. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, stay spectacular, everyone. Peace.
He's ignored. Action is his reward to him. Life is a great big bang. Wherever there's a hang, you'll find a Spider-Man.